There we go.
That should be better. There we go. Okay, first time doing this. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about crypto and how extremely damaging it is to the environment, and also lately to certain investors' pocketbooks. But we're not going to go in that direction. We're just going to talk about the impact on the environment for the most part. And this has to be in the context of legislation that's been passed here in New York State, which is, of course, a leader in so many different areas. It's so fortunate when you think about living here as opposed to living certain other places in the country. The progressivism here is like a beacon, if you ask me. So back on July 18th, 2019, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed into existence the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Oh, I hear somebody else coming in. And this is a scant 3 years ago. So it's very new. And what exactly is the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act? Well, it's a huge Albany bill, as you can imagine, hundreds of pages long, setting forth various committees and task forces and goals and et cetera, but for our purposes, this is what it did for the environment. And its main impetus is to combat climate change. And New York is now a leader across the entire country in terms of fighting climate change due to this act that was passed by both houses of the legislature 3 years ago and signed by Governor Cuomo. The Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, CLCPA, requires New York to reduce economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030 and no less than 85% by 2050. Very universally agreed by experts that this is an extremely, very ambitious goals from 1990 levels. So the first question that came to my mind was, what exactly does economy-wide mean? And so I dug into it a little, and this pie chart on the bottom here, can everybody read that from where you are? Because it's a little small on the screen, but I'll go through it. This is actually a federal USA breakdown of our US greenhouse gas emissions. And when they say economy-wide, they're talking about these 5 sectors of the economy. So 25% of greenhouse gas emissions are emitted by power plants. As we know, coal-fired, to some extent natural gas-fired. 29%, almost 1/3 of our emissions are caused by transportation. Cars, trucks, trains, airplanes, buses. Only 10% by agriculture, and I'm thinking that's probably, ruminants, dairy cows, send off enormous amounts of methane into the atmosphere. Methane is an extremely powerful global climate change producing gas. And so only 10% to agriculture, only 10%. 17% commercial and residential. So we're talking about furnaces, we're talking about refrigerators, appliances, responsible for 13% of our global greenhouse gas emissions in this country, and 23% by industry, by factories. So economy-wide, New York State's ambitious goals is to reduce these by nearly 100% by 2050. And they're already, I just read in the newspaper this morning that 2 huge solar projects have been approved for Newfane of all places. Yeah, it's very, very encouraging when you hear about these solar facilities being built in these rural areas that are putting up most of the pushback on solar installations in wind. Yeah.
Can you or anybody else tell me why there's been so much resistance to solar power generators? What's the problem? I want to repeat the question.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Peter's question was why the pushback? What is the reason why these mostly rural areas are so adamantly opposed to solar and wind installations? And a large I mean, this is just my personal, what I've garnered. There might be other expert opinions out there. I'm sure there are, but just from being involved in the issue for a few years and paying attention, I think a large percentage is NIMBY, not in my backyard. People don't want to look out and see a big windmill, 600-foot tall windmill. They don't want to see that. And they're making up things about noise, that they're noisy, and that they put pollutants into the ground, like the lubricants they use to, lubricate the windmill. In solar panels, the same thing, mostly unfounded assertions on their part, because they just don't do these things. Solar panels do not pollute the ground. And so there's NIMBY as part of it. The other part of it, I think, is just what we're observing in this country, this division between somewhat educated or well-educated Democrats, progressives, people who understand the threat that's posed to us by global climate change. And then you have a population that's undereducated. They're far from cultural activities or very low diversity areas like Newfane, Wilson. These areas very homogenous in their outlook, and they elect Republicans. And I know we shouldn't really get too political, but we're observing this, I think, right now in just every conceivable area of American life. You've got basically 2 sides. And there's a side that understands the threat of climate change, and there's the side that says, well, it's ridiculous. Men, the human race can't affect something as big as the planet. It's just, it kind of springs from ignorance and groupthink, I think. Because, we all associate with like-minded people. It's just human nature. And so out there in rural areas, they might have a mega church, and that's the center of their social life, or they work, with like-minded people. They play with like-minded people. They like their guns. They like hunting, things that not so much for progressives. And it's just not to really belabor the point, but I think that people just reflexively oppose new things, and especially things that they associate with the liberal left wing. You just have all kinds of names you can trot out for what they think of us. But yeah, in fact, President Obama once said, he was talking about gas prices, and he's talking about, when people are at the pump, they might be willing to do this, even if it helps the environment. So, okay, so here we go with actual action we can all take within the next couple of days. And if you go to climate.newyork.gov, this what is it? The CLCPA is up for public comment, and how they're going to approach things like crypto, which we're going to talk a lot more about. But you can go to climate.newyork.gov, and the comment period ends July 1st. You can comment on anything, climate change. You can comment on this. Thank you for the solar panels up in Newfane. I think you should do more with wind turbines. I think you should, and this one I'm going to ask you to definitely comment, go to this website and comment, say, we need a 2-year moratorium on crypto. And the more people who go to this website and put in a public comment opposed to crypto, the better. They'll get the message. And now we're going to talk about, well, what's that all about? What's this crypto thing? What is crypto? And just how does it figure in the CLCPA in our fight against global climate change? That's really the answers, the questions we want to address. So like I like to do, and I teach massage therapy at the community college and massage school in Williamsville. And whenever we talk about something new, I like to start out with a definition. It's like a ground rule with me. And what is cryptocurrency defined? It's any form of currency that exists digitally or virtually and uses cryptography to store value and secure transactions. Yeah, it's not physical money. Cryptocurrency is not physical money. It solely exists as a bunch of electrons on a computer server somewhere. Okay, they have actually created, certain people, just for kicks, have created a Bitcoin, the actual physical coin. And then on the Bitcoin is the actual computer code that defines the Bitcoin. But please don't think that there's any validity to somebody handing a Bitcoin to pay for some groceries or pay for a service. It doesn't work that way. There's no actual physical money. It's digital or virtual. So it exists solely as electrons on a computer somewhere. And it uses cryptography. So cryptography basically is code. You've heard of the code breakers in World War II, the codes like Enigma and the ciphers. The Zodiac killer out in California created this cipher that he would send to the newspapers. It's a code. It's a coded message. And likewise, many of your electronic transactions that you do today, if you do electronic banking, a lot of the messages between financial institutions, it's all encoded so that people can't steal that information and use it to commit crimes. So that's what it is. Money, after all, is a store of value. If you ask any economist, what is money? He or she will say it is a store of value and secure transactions. So that's the thing about money is involved in transactions. So that's really the difference between cryptocurrency and the dollar bills that are in your wallet or purse right now, is that there's no physical manifestation of cryptocurrency. So this is really catching on. As of March, just a couple months ago, there were more than 9,000 different cryptocurrencies. So anybody can wake up in the morning, yawn, stretch, and create their own cryptocurrency, and people have. And however, a small percentage, what is that? A little less than 1 in 100 actually are worth something at this point, or have a market capitalization exceeding $1 billion. So Bitcoin, we've all heard of Bitcoin, definitely more than $1 billion worth of Bitcoins floating around out there. There's others, Ethereum is another, Dogecoin, you read about and hear about these. So they're also capitalized. There's more than $1 billion worth of these cryptocurrencies out there. So a little history of the cryptocurrency. Just how far back does this idea go? Well, in 1983, a cryptographer, a guy who studies coding and ciphers for a living, named David Shum, he invented an anonymous cryptographic electronic money called eCash. And then he actually, for some reason, it took him 10 years, but he actually created a system 10 years later called DigiCash. And so that's really, he gets the credit. He's kind of like this, he's a hero worship in this cryptocurrency field, which, you know, it's really kind of catches on with young people are really into this, more in the demographics of who deals in cryptocurrency and who invests in it, overwhelmingly skew towards younger people. So there's Dr. Shum right there. And then a year after he came out with DigiCash, the NSA, National Security Agency, which basically keeps an eye on one of the main agencies in charge of keeping an eye on, you know, the internet and national security, published a paper, How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash, describing a cryptocurrency system. So it's very interesting. That's what's 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago, they said anonymous electronic cash. And in fact, if you have nothing else against cryptocurrency, you might bear in mind that international criminals love cryptocurrency for ransomware, for ransom for kidnapping, kidnapping victims. It's not traceable. It's not traceable. So that's one big problem with cryptocurrency, and it's not traceable by the IRS either, because you know, if people get paid in Bitcoin, they don't have to report it. Although they're addressing that at this present time. That's my understanding. So in 2009, a little more than 10 years ago, the first decentralized cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, was created by developer Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, so this is really your first cryptocurrency that's out there being traded today. It's being used to pay for things. And the key thing here that really separates cryptocurrency like Bitcoin from the good old US greenback dollar is this decentralized. Okay, there's no central bank that backs up cryptocurrency. Unlike our Federal Reserve and our Treasury that backs up the integrity of the dollar and says the full faith and credit of the US government's behind this dollar, no such thing with cryptocurrency. There's no central bank behind it. It's decentralized. These Bitcoins exist all over the world on different computers. And also developer Satoshi Nakamoto, interestingly, there is no individual by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. They don't know who invented or initiated Bitcoin. There's a dozen computer experts and software developers and cryptographers that they think it's theorized. It's kind of like Deep Throat with the FBI. Like everybody knew he was there, but nobody knew who he was until many years later. It's the same with Satoshi Nakamoto. That's just a fake made up name. So it makes it a little more sketchy, if you ask me. All right, so let's talk about more differences between a Bitcoin, say, and a dollar. And Economists generally agree that here are the 6 characters of the money. It's durable. Okay, it's portable. You can use it anywhere. It's divisible. So you must be able to divide it down. So a dollar gets divided down into dimes and nickels and pennies. As it happens, a Bitcoin right now, 1 Bitcoin is the equivalent on the market of something like $26,000. However, there is a division, 1 division of a Bitcoin is 100 millionths of a Bitcoin, which is called a Satoshi. So if you do the math, 1 Satoshi is about worth 0.0001 cents. So you can divide a Bitcoin into very, very small pennies, if you will. And so that's why people can pay for a cup of coffee out of their Bitcoin account. Uniformity is another characteristic in terms of what it will buy. Acceptability, everybody agrees that this dollar bill is worth something. That's the only thing that makes the whole thing work. And finally, this is what we're going to key in on: limited supply. This is the aspect of cryptocurrency that makes it so damaging to the environment. And we're going to explore why that is. But money is only valuable if it's scarce. Makes sense. And therefore, if you make more money, you get richer. And this is a key concept. If money was not in limited supply, everybody could have a printing press in their basement and make lots of money. So that makes perfect sense. So with Bitcoin, each Bitcoin is created by a complex computer operation. Okay, so you just cannot wake up in the morning and decide, you know what, I think I have Bitcoins. I'll just say I have Bitcoins. No, you have a right to a Bitcoin because you actually did computer work to arrive at that Bitcoin. And the way the mathematical algorithm is set up for Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, I'm sorry, I'm getting hypoxia here. I gotta take my mask off. What makes Bitcoin rare and scarce, or any cryptocurrency rare and scarce, is the fact that it's mathematically limited to be a certain number that are ever going to be created. And we haven't reached that yet with Bitcoin. But at a certain day in the future, the maximum number of Bitcoins will have been created and no more will be created. So I try to think of a way to analogize this for you guys. And I came up, I think, with a perfect analogy. And this is, think of prime numbers as Bitcoins. Now, a prime number is a number that's only divisible by itself. So 1 is a prime number, it's only divisible by itself, 1. 2 is a prime number, it's only divisible by itself in 1. 3 is a prime number, it's only divisible by itself, 3 and 1. But 4 is not a prime number, because it's divisible by itself, 4 and 1, and also 2 times 2 equals 4. So that's 3 numbers that go into 4. So that's not a prime number. Moving forward, 5 is a prime number, 7 is a prime number, 11 is a prime number. You can only get to 11 by multiplying 1 times 11. You know, there's no 2 times 3 or 3 times 4 that gives you 11. So that's a prime number. And as it turns out, prime numbers, as you go further and higher, get rarer and rarer and rarer. I didn't look it up, but the highest known prime number, I think, has like, I don't know, 1 million digits or something. And it was arrived at by a supercomputer cranking this algorithm all day long. And after years, said, oh, I discovered another prime number. It's this one with 1 million digits on it. So that's the idea with Bitcoin, is you need enormous computing power to solve that computer algorithm and arrive at a new Bitcoin. Enormous amounts of computing power. And this in the industry is called mining. So when you have a bank of computers and they're consuming electricity all day long, 24/7, they're running this computer algorithm, searching and searching for that next unique Bitcoin that conforms to the mathematical algorithm that they're using to create it. So these computers run 24/7, they mine crypto, and they use an enormous amount of energy. How much? Well, presently, the output of 15 average sized nuclear power plants. And that's on an annual, well, no, that's ongoing. All of the refrigerators in the entire country. And if crypto mining was its own country, it would rank 27th in terms of energy consumption. So it's an enormous amount of electricity. And Bitcoin alone pumps 65 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year, more than the entire country of Greece does. So that brings us to New York State. You know, it's like think global, act local. Remember that one? All right, so Greenidge Power Plant is in Dresden, which is just outside of Geneva, New York. A beautiful little city right on Lake Seneca, one of the Finger Lakes. And Greenidge Power Plant had been mothballed for close to 20 years. And so crypto saw that mothballed power plant and they said, you know what, I think we could put that power plant back online and we could convert it to natural gas and we could run these computers all day long and mine crypto right there. So there's been a huge movement to stop that from happening. I've been to a protest there already. I keep in touch with these people and we're fighting their license to reopen that power plant. And so a year ago, this week, we had a big protest at Avon, New York at the DEC headquarters. I took this photo from across the road and we had a good turnout. I would put it 150, 200 people. It's almost like a reminiscing of the fracking. I was deeply involved in the anti-fracking movement and it's amazing the activism in the state. It just blows me away. Went to rallies in Albany, thousands of people for fracking. You wouldn't, but they come out of the woodwork for things like this. And so here we go with crypto, which is now it's kind of a lot of the same folks. In fact, I've reminisced with some of them about the fracking, anti-fracking activism. And so here's, as you can see, it's a pretty sedate crowd. There's no fistfights or rock throwing or tear gas. And so the organization that's kind of organizing things against reopening this, this power plant is called Seneca Lake Guardian. And this particular rally, we had about 6 state legislators all address the crowd. And it's, you know, I tell you, you know, you listen to these state legislators from a different part of the state, get up at the podium and address the crowd. And they are so intelligent and so articulate and so committed. And it's just really, I started thinking about who represents this area right here and comparing. And it's like, yeah. That's right. You not winning that election was opportunity lost. That's the way I look at it, Pete. But yeah, and Mr. Ort, by the way, Mr. Ort has the moratorium that passed. We're about to talk about it. He voted against the moratorium. Yeah, with his 28 other Republicans in the state Senate. So tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. is going to be a news conference. It's going to be a press conference at the Visitor Center in Geneva. I'm going with Charlie Bowman, who's a former director of the Peace Center in Buffalo. We're going together in his Tesla. I don't know who else is coming with us. But we're going to leave at 9:30, get there, do the press. And this is advertised all over the state, so we should get a lot of people there. And we're going to come right back home. So it's about a 2.5 hour drive. And it's this visitor center is right on the lake in Geneva. So it's easily found. And what are we calling for at this rally tomorrow? We're calling for Governor Kathy Hochul to sign into law the New York State Crypto Mining Moratorium Bill of 2022, which passed both the Assembly and State Senate just this month. So if you know the machinations of the governor signing a bill, they either sign it or they can do like a pocket veto of it, or they can veto it outright. Unfortunately, Governor Hochul does take in a fair amount of contributions, whether it's crypto or not, I'm not sure, probably just good old US dollars from the crypto industry. So we feel there's a conflict there, and we feel that the more pressure we put on Governor Hochul to sign this bill into law, the more pressure we can generate, the better. She's just got a few scant days left to be able to sign this bill. So hopefully tomorrow we'll send a message to her. And that message is, Governor Hochul, sign the bill. Put a moratorium on cryptocurrency, allow the state to meet its 2030 and 2050 climate goals. This one here? Okay. Yeah, and so if please, if you don't want to go to Geneva tomorrow, please go online, climate.newyork.gov, and ask in your comment, ask the government, state government, specifically Governor Hochul, to please sign that bill into law so that we can meet our 2030 and 2050 climate goals. Is she viable to sign it into law, or are you saying she won't? We don't know. She's bless you. Yeah, well, yeah. No, we don't know where she stands on it. There's a good, I mean, like I said, there's reasons why she wouldn't. One is that she gets money from the crypto industry. And secondly, you know, the same reason Senator Ort and other politicians, it is economic activity. In a lot, like this Dresden, New York, is just this little spot on Lake Seneca. I mean, I'm sure that reopening this power plant is going to bring in some revenue for them, tax revenue. So yeah, it's the same reason why Andrew Cuomo wanted fracking on the southern tier, because it's an economically depressed area, and you know, and he could look like he's developing. He cares about these people. So there are reasons for her not to sign it, unfortunately. All right. Any other questions?
We have an online question from Desi, where she's asking, is it true that a small number of people own most cryptocurrency or Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, I think the answer is yes. Generally speaking, well, you know, that's the other thing about crypto is it's such a complete scam. I'm sorry, it just really is. It has no value. It's electrons. It only has value because an army of mostly young people are just caught up in this, like, wow, it's the coming thing, and it's so much better for social justice, and it's this and it's that, and they projected all of these qualities onto cryptocurrency, that and understandably, the volatility of crypto is crazy. Bitcoin routinely drops by half its value on any given day and then gains it back and up and down, up and down. How do you pay for things? How are you going to buy a new car with crypto if it changes value every day by a large amount? So it's crashing. Bless you.
She has a follow-up question too. So she goes on to ask, would this cause it to be considered a pyramid scheme?
You know what? I don't think pyramid scheme as much as musical chairs. Pyramid scheme, yeah, in a way, because the people that got in very early got incredibly wealthy. If you bought Bitcoin 5-10 years ago, you're probably a billionaire. I think it has created a couple billionaires. But so in that regard, it's a pyramid scheme. But in terms of it crashing and becoming valueless, I think it's like musical chairs. It's when the music stops in this investing world, we call them bag holders. They're left holding the bag. And so, and also on NPR just the other day, I heard they did a story on crypto, and it's some tragic stories. Young people, young families who just had some crypto, and it went up, and they made money, and they bought a house, mortgaged the house, they did mortgage this, they spent money, and then crypto crashed. And they lost, 80% of their savings, their retirement savings, or a lot of retirees got hurt badly. And again, it's like, I actually was a licensed stockbroker in a previous life. And we had a saying on the trading floor, and that was 2 things rule, and that's greed and fear. And greed is so much a part of it. It's you might be familiar with 200-300 years ago, there was a tulip bubble. Tulips coming out of Holland were bid up and bid up and bid up to outrageous prices. And then one fine day, the bottom just fell out of the whole thing. And I can only imagine the pain of some of these people losing their money like that. And if you look at the 1929 stock market crash, it was the same deal. People had these paper fortunes, and all of a sudden everything just fell out, and people jumped out of windows, they committed suicide, and plunged this country in an extremely painful depression for many years. I will say, I've given this some thought. I'm really glad that this is happening now, because if crypto got any bigger in terms of capitalization, when the day finally comes, and it will come, that crypto crashes, that could have plunged us into a 2007, 2009 style recession all over again, or worse, because so much wealth is tied up in it. Yeah, Teresa.
Can you explain a lot of us store things on the file and they put things on the file. What is the difference between the amount of energy we're using there versus?
Yeah, Teresa's question was, a lot of us store things on computer, including our finances, most of us, I think. And what's the difference between just our computer use and crypto generating computing?
That cloud, somebody else store your stuff on backing it up somewhere else.
Well, that's really storage. There's in computing, you have storage that's an issue and processing that's an issue. And in fact, the whole trend of computing has been towards more storage and less space and faster and faster processing. They're getting these computer chips that are better and better and better all the time. So when you store stuff up in the cloud, it's just storage. It's just sitting there on a hard drive somewhere. Is little magnetic particles that are aligned a certain way, and it's not using any electricity for that storage. But to generate a Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, you're running calculations, you're processing. So there's active electricity flowing around those computer circuits, executing these computer instructions, these calculations, and goes on and on and on and on and on, because Bitcoins are rarer and rarer and rarer. With each new Bitcoin that's mined, there's fewer left to find. So if you took your laptop apart and looked at the processing chip, the brain of the computer, if you will, there's actually a little fan on top of that computer chip, a tiny little fan, and that helps keep that chip cool, because that chip gets so hot in your laptop, right, that it can melt. So you need a little fan, you need a fan that blows out the hot. This is warm right here. It's from that computer chip in there. And what's that lead you to believe? Not lead you to believe. What's that represent? It represents the fact that those electrical circuits and that computer chip are working overtime. And that's what they have, I think, actually right over here on Buffalo Avenue. They have, in these crypto mining facilities, if you take this room, imagine this room, computers stacked to the ceiling all the way around this room. And this is a typical facility for crypto mining. And these computers are running 24/7, putting out enormous amounts of heat. That's another problem with this power plant in Geneva, is that they're going to generate all this hot water and they're going to put it out into Lake Seneca. Yeah, that's what they plan to do. And this is a glacial lake. And it's what that harm that's going to do. So it's the processing, not the storage, that eats up the electricity. Does that answer your question? Yeah, and bear in mind too, please, this is a zero-sum game. For every volt or amp of electricity that goes into crypto mining, that's a volt or amp, even if it's green energy from hydropower, wind, or solar, that's electricity that's not going into meeting our 2030 and 2050 goals. So actually, most people who are, if you go to one of these rallies, they will tell you that this has the potential of crashing our goals, completely trashing our climate goals for New York State, if this is allowed to proliferate. So it's very bad. Yeah.
I agree with you that crypto is a scam, huge scam. I would think.
No, it's there are actual transaction software where you can transmit Bitcoins or Satoshis or whatever, whatever subdivision of a Bitcoin. There are actually ledgers out there where you transfer a Bitcoin to somebody else. I haven't looked into it. That's where the decentralized comes in. There's no central bank where you do this, but there are ledgers where you assign it to a different person. And I believe there's like some kind of tracking mechanism too. So a Bitcoin will have attached to it code that identifies all of its previous transactions. Not so much who actually owns it. However, our government was able to claw back a bunch of ransom a couple months ago that was in Bitcoin. And, these people are so smart, but they were able to crack the code, figure out where the Bitcoin that had paid the ransom resided out there. And like I said, decentralized, this Bitcoin could be anywhere on the planet. And they tracked down the ransom Bitcoin and clawed it back somehow. They're not saying how, but yeah, it's like a transaction. I mean, if you, I know I pay my bills electronically, and I just go online and I say, okay, pay this one, pay that one, click a button, and boom, the money goes out. It's the same kind of thing. I think, because I've never done it, but
We have another question from Desi online, and she was asking if other locations where they have these types of Bitcoin facilities have caused protests of the kind that you're trying to organize here.
I know of none that are at the scale of what's taking place in the Finger Lakes. I'm sure that there's been protests. Oh, in fact, China has banned it altogether. China has banned cryptocurrency for different reasons, but environmental is one of them.
Actually, I could do a follow-up question of my own, which would be how many, to your knowledge, approximately how many of these Bitcoin processing or computing facilities exist throughout the US?
You know, I don't know. I'm not going to make it up, but quite a number. You know, they're around. Yeah, there's stories of the fact that they're actually kind of surreptitious, but people wake up and they look out their window and they see a semi driving down the road. It's like, oh, what's that all about? And next thing you know, there's a computer facility set up on the edge of town, running. So, yeah, I believe there's one on Buffalo Avenue over here. Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard people complaining about the noise. But you know, I think my impression is the politicians here in Niagara Falls are kind of, you know, kind of ambivalent about it.
I wonder if the war, why forced these Bitcoin and cryptocurrency don't leave the constitutional law. The Constitution, basically what these things are doing, not generating money. And that's strictly forbidden by the US Constitution. The only people that are allowed to generate money is the US government. No exceptions, like the Constitution. How come people aren't changing? They may, maybe the Supreme Court's overturned it. Or they decide.
I forgot to repeat your question, Pat. However, Peter's question was, how can this even happen? How can people even create money? Isn't that against the law and against the Constitution? And that's a good question. The answer is that it's the government, as we speak, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, the US Treasury, the Internal Revenue Service, they're right now, they shouldn't have been, but they have all the appearances of having been blindsided by this. And so they're scrambling to, how do we regulate it? You know, how do we, so they're just flummoxed by the whole situation. And the answer is that this is entirely outside of the US banking system. This is why I think the young people, they find it so appealing, is because it's a poking a finger in the eye of big government and big industry. And this is, you know, the money of the people. And as so far, it's completely outside the purview of the government. They, you know, it's only money because these people who deal in Bitcoin think it's money. And so therefore, it's not backed by the government like your dollar bill. It's just out there. It's kind of, you could think of it possibly. In fact, for a while there, they were thinking of treating it like a commodity, like pork bellies or sugar or frozen concentrated orange juice, or, you know, like, let's look at it as a commodity. It's not money, it's a thing. And so it's so hard for the government, I mean, to really arrive at how to deal with this. And like I say, thank goodness it's crashing, because if it got really, really big and then it crashed, God help us. I mean, our economy would just. So yeah, so like I say, please go to climate.ny.gov, put in comment. If you feel like going for a drive tomorrow, jump in your car and to Geneva. It's a nice drive, and Geneva's beautiful. It's a nice little city. They did not tear down their entire downtown 50 years ago. So a large section of their downtown is these gorgeous old buildings, and it's just a really nice little city.
Can I have one more question?
Yeah.
The building they're building in Geneva, or the one here, is that owned by one specific Bitcoin? Would they be building one of these for each one, or is it a building like this process, the 70 different ones that are big? Are they done in one place, all the different ones?
I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, you're either a Bitcoin facility, you're working on Bitcoin, or you're an Ethereum and you're working on Ethereums, or you're a Dogecoin and you're working on Dogecoins. But I don't know, I could be wrong. You know, this computer's trying to make me a new Bitcoin and this one's trying to make, no, I don't think so. You know, it's typical. If there's money to be made, there's individuals out there who are opportunistic, who are going to swoop in and set up these facilities and hopefully make, you know, but the latest headlines on your various cryptocurrency websites, various headlines is one is, A, they're very ticked off at this moratorium bill. They're fighting against it. This is the crypto industry. And B, a lot of people who previously had plans to finance crypto mining facilities are now pulling out because it crashed. It's like, I think it's like 20% of what it was a year ago or something. It's crashed. People have lost a lot of money that bought this Bitcoin and other cryptos. So a lot of your big investors are saying, no, I'm out of here. All right, well, this is a fantastic turnout. I just want to thank you again for coming out. I remember last time. Thank you. I'll let you guys know how things turn out, give you an update maybe later this summer. Hopefully it's happy. Oh, this is my wife and I are getting married at Geneva because her sister and brother-in-law live there, and we got married in their backyard. Yeah. Oh, it's like a forest. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you guys.
So,